Hello my friends, John LaRuffa here with another Straight Up Solo, and in this episode we are going to take a look at Imperium Horizons, and I'm going to specifically tell you the reason that this one in particular is good from a solo standpoint, but I'll also talk about other ones and give you an understanding of what kind of how this one goes compared to the other ones, compared to classics and legends. So let's go ahead and take a look. Okay, and as usual, folks, please like and subscribe to my YouTube channel if you haven't done so already. And if you have, thank you so much for that support. So I have made a playthrough of this game in very recent weeks. You can check out that video to see more about that game, how the game actually plays through. And in that edition, I used some of the other races from the previous, or I say races, but factions, nations, whatever you want to call them, from the previous game. And this one plays very similarly to those, except it comes with a new expansion mechanic called the trade route expansion, okay? And with the trade routes in play, it adds a new resource to the game, which you can see here, which are these trade goods. It also adds a substantial amount of interesting choices and different things that can happen. And I think that in general, that, I would say, adds another element of the game that makes it even more enjoyable to play from either a solo standpoint or I'm assuming also multiplayer. But just to give you a little bit of an overview what this game's about. This game is basically a card game where you're building up a nation and you're putting cards in play in order to activate them for their special abilities, in order for them to influence one another while you play cards. These cards right here are quote unquote in my hand right now, whereas I have these cards in play and I've separated my trade routes out up here. All right, and then you also have a deck where you draw from, a deck that you discard to, just like any other kind of deck builder, which is exactly what this game is. You have a development area which has cards that have very strong and powerful abilities that you can buy after you've gone through your Ascension and Nation deck over here. And all these things together make up something that is unique to your empire. And then you have this market out here where you're going to be acquiring either lands, uncivilized, civilized cards, or a mixture of them, including also some Triumph cards or these blue ones over here, okay? And subjugation, I think, is maybe what they're called. And then in addition, and this is what's unique to this expansion, is the whole trade route situation. And you use this trade route table over here to determine what the bot will do during its turn, and it always takes a trade route action at the end of its turn, and depending on which cards they have in play, it will either do a commerce effect or profit effect, depending on whether it is set up to do so. Now, one thing that is really helpful that this version, the Horizons version did, was it printed out on card form these AI instructions. This card is essential for understanding what the AI is going to do, how they're going to do it, and you basically had to do that from a rule book beforehand for either the Legends or the Classics. And that was a little bit of a hassle, and so much so that I actually copied them and printed them out myself. Additionally, there's a couple more changes here. In this, it gave you roughly 49, if my memory is correct, cards that would go into the other versions to modify what was going on in some of those race decks or history decks or whatever to balance the game out further, which I think is very helpful. So if you're wondering which one of these games should I start with, I don't have any of them, but I'm really interested. I think that this one, Imperium Horizons, makes the most sense to start with no matter what. You have the most content. You have 16 different, like I said, nations or races to play with. They're all very different in the way they feel and function. And then you have all of those correction cards that you could use if you bought the other versions. Plus, in this one, the rule book is much better laid out, much more detailed. It has much more information, and it's much more helpful in helping you understand how to actually play this game. There's a lot more examples, as you can see here. There is a big different kind of way to do the solo rules called, I think it's called the, oh, I forgot, like, it's not the solo rule set. I'm not using it because I'm experienced with the game, but there is a way to play the solo. It's kind of like a lighter version of it, so it's not as heavy. And you can use that practice mode. Practice mode helps. There's a short variant. There's just a lot of stuff in here that can help you get the game off the ground so you can understand what to do. The variety in this game is huge because depending on the different cards you put into play for yourself on the market, you're going to have different strategies that emerge. And depending on the different races you choose, or empires, I keep deciding what to say, I can't decide what to say. Depending on that, those cards and what's in those decks are sometimes dramatically different and will push for a very unique set of play. Now, let me be specific for those who are experienced with this game. Why is Horizon something you might want to consider? I've said the trade routes are important. Let me explain why they're important. I'll give you some examples. So basically on your turn, you can choose to exhaust your merchant empire or your merchant. And when you do that, you can choose to trade, which is basically activating one of these trade route cards or spending one of these progress points to get a trade route token. Or you can pay actually like 3 of these trade route tokens to acquire one of the civilized or uncivilized cards there, or pay 5 and garrison a permanent card in your hand to take the top card of the glory deck. So why is that really important? Well, because it gives you a whole other way to acquire cards and even get glory cards without having to focus on without having to completely focus on your glory card here. So this opens up an entirely different method of play where you can rely on something that isn't the same old kind of, okay, if I want to do this, if I want to get to the glory deck where a lot of points are, I basically have to abandon 3 cards as usual and do this and that. No, this gives you another way completely to do that type of mechanic, which I think is very enjoyable, and it's not overly complex, but it gives you more varieties and more options of things to do, which I really like. The bot does a similar thing. And oh, by the way, you can trade on the bot's cards, and that's really interesting. They can also do that to you, by the way, but they're going to prefer to do theirs more often than not. And that also lets you take advantage of their abilities and have a little bit more interaction besides just the attack interaction that you have with them. And it's a way that you can generate your own trade points as well. Now you're helping them out too, because once these cards have 3 trade points on them, trade resources, you can use the trade action to profit for them. And when you do that, you do something specific for the card, and then you put the card back into your discard pile where you can play it again. Okay, and that can be a varying thing too. And each of these trade routes, just like any other card in the game, has a very unique thing that allows you to do that. And some of these things are just really interesting and really fun, and it just opens up another avenue for you to approach this game. The game itself very much plays like the other versions of the game, so you're not going to find anything besides what I just said that goes dramatically different, like different ending conditions or things of that nature. The gameplay loop is the same. And again, just for people who don't know what that is, you have 3 actions you can take. You will use those actions to either activate cards, and activating cards could be playing a card, can be activating something that tells you to spend an action that's already out there, or some type of situation in your specific, your nation power, your power card. There's lots of ways that you can activate. Or if you don't want to use those 3 actions to do that, you can spend a turn to innovate, where you basically will go and find a card in this deck of a specific type. And it's like you trade your entire turn to just go do that without having to take unrest. Or you can revolt, and revolt is when you take all your unrest cards, you discard them without having to actually go through the payments for them. And you do that every time you go through a cleanup phase, and then the AI takes their turn. And the way the AI does their turn, they're going to roll a die, and after rolling that die, they're going to flip up every other card besides the die it rolled, and they're going to work through this priority list to do exactly what it says based on the type of card it is. You ignore the card's text, you follow this to a T, and each and every one of the civilizations has a different card associated with it. Even the ones, and this game gives you all the cards for all the previous versions as well, making it convenient to do that. And so it puts this all together in a very nice package. All right, so overall, that's kind of what it looks like. And I'll just play a quick sample turn here so that you can get an understanding of what the game is about if you haven't watched anything else. So I'm going to do an activate turn. So I'm going to spend my actions to activate these cards and to play them. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to, oh, by the way, I'm at the very end of my game here. You'll notice some of these cards are exhausted. There's usually, or decks are exhausted. There's usually 6 cards here, plus 1 for the trade route. This is usually pretty big. The game's about to end because I'm about to exhaust this card right there. And so what I'm going to do is at the very end here, I'm going to try to maximize what I can accomplish. And like I told you before, this glory card, which is usually very important in getting into the glory deck, I really don't have a way to do that because I don't have enough land out in play right now to allow me to go with that approach. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to try to get my hands on more cards, and with that, maybe score some more points. So let's do this. Let's go ahead and so there's lots of different options here, but what can I do to get the most out of where I am? Well, this does not help me. This is a free play, but it's not really going to give me the help I need. I think the first thing I will do, honestly, is I'm going to, boy, these cards are not that helpful at the last turn of the game. I suppose what I'll do is I'll play this card first. This one lets me break through for another blue card. If there isn't a blue card in play in here, and there wasn't, I end up getting 2 points. So that's just an easy way to get 2 points. Okay, so that's my first action. The second action, I'm going to trade, and this isn't really representative all that well because what I can do here doesn't fit the mold all that well for what I would want to do. Does that give me the opportunity? I'm trying to see, what would be nice is if I could pay the 5 trade goods and garrison one of these cards under there to take the top card of that deck. And in order to do so, I think I am going to be a little short. But let's see, all right, so we're gonna do this. We're gonna exhaust this, and I'm gonna trade. And in this case, I'm gonna do the profits. So I'm going to break through for a civilized card, and it says, including cards from the exile. So that means I can actually go in here and get some cards that normally I wouldn't be able to get. This one's nice, 1 point for every 3 cards in history. So I've got a decent amount of cards in history. That might be good. This is 2 points right there. This one is, that would be really good, but I'm gonna try to spend all those in just a second. Let's do that one. Let's go ahead and get the scribes. So when I break through, I'm gonna add it right to my hand. And because I did a profit, I'm gonna take these 3 trade goods, I'm gonna put them over here. And then I put this in my discard pile. Now, that did not cost an action. Notice that was just exhaust. So I don't have to do that. The only problem with that is then I can't really, instead of exhausting there, yeah, I don't think I'm going to be able to do what I was really hoping because I don't have enough stuff in play to get the job done. So we're just going to forget about that. What I will do here is, I will put this in play. And this will at least maybe help me get some. I'll put the seaport in play here, and that would say 1 point per card, these types of cards I have. Now, it doesn't need to be in play when it's over here. As far as I can understand, it just says 1 point per card like that. So this needs to be in play, but I don't need to have all of those cards in play to score this. So that will give me some points. And then, at least I don't think so. Please correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure that is true. And then the final one is I'm going to play this out here, and that will at least give me another 2 points. So I'm trying to get some points at the very end, this one wouldn't be bad either. That would give me for water and, so this one's actually, well, that's 2 points per that, or I get 1, 2. It doesn't really, yeah, this one's better. So I'm gonna put that in play. So those are my 3 actions. Now, is there anything else I could do? Well, I could exhaust this, but that's circumstantial. That's not going to help. I could exhaust this, since when you gain resources from that, no, it doesn't help. This isn't gonna help me either. And this is a free play. So let's see what this says. When I say free play, I don't have to spend an action. Choose, put a card from your hand into your history, or exile 2 cards from your history to gain 1 action. Well, I don't have anything in my hand that really needs to go into history. So this scribes is pretty circumstantial, which would be good if I had it earlier. But I do want to put it in play anyway. It doesn't actually go in play. It just gives me the 1 point per 3 cards in history I see. Okay, no, that's good though. So I will use it. Put a card from your hand into your history. So at least I'll do that, and then it'll give me an opportunity to have more cards in my history. So I'll just put this one right here, this 1 victory point. Doesn't matter, but that'll be another one. Okay, so that would be the end of my turn from a standpoint of taking the actions, all right? Now, what I would do is I would add one of these to any of these cards out here, and I'm gonna add it to this card right there. I'm not gonna get into why, but I'm gonna put it over there. Okay, now we come to him. And actually what we would do then, pardon me, is we would go ahead and unexhaust my tokens. These would be charged for me, and then I would basically draw up any ones that I would want to do. So I'm going to discard this glory card also. I don't have a good way to use it. And then I'm going to draw up to 5 cards. I've got 2 in my hands. That's 3, 4, and 5. Then my turn is over. Now I'll give you a sample turn of what the AI does. So they start by rolling a die. They are not going to execute that turn. We are going to flip over this card, and it's a trade route. So it says here, play this and trigger it, then gain a point. So I'm going to play the trade route over here, trigger it, and in order to trigger it, I will put this there, and I will refer to the table. So that's the Baltic Amber Road. It says return a unrest card from the discard if unable, gain 2. So do I have any unrest in the discard pile? I do not. So altogether, he's going to gain 3 points. So we're going to turn in these 2 and this to just make change. So that's how he's going to interact with that card. Then we go to the next one. It is a blue card over here. It says acquire a card from the market with a specific building resource on it. If unable, break through for a land and break through for a civilized, then put this card in history. Well, there are no civilized out here, but I can break through for the land. He's going to do the one that's worth the most points. If there's a tie like this, he's going to take this card. He breaks through, so he puts it on top of his draw deck. And then there is no uncivilized card out here, or civilized card, pardon me, out here, so that doesn't happen. However, we do flip this, and this will then trigger the end of the game. And no unrest goes under it because it is a land card. Now we have this determined glory card. So, or not glory, it's a from the other deck. This is breakthrough for a trade route. Trade, put this card into history. There are no trade routes out here, but we do have the option to trade. So when we look at the trade, we're going to see what he wants to do. He's a merchant empire, so he would acquire a trade route if possible, but he can't. Then he's going to resolve all profits. There are no things set up for profits. He's going to pay 3 trade tokens to acquire, which he can't. So then he's going to try to trade, and then he's going to pay 1 point to get 1 more trade card. So how he trades is in order, basically, with the most of these out here, and then his own, and then we're tied first available on trade route chart above. So he's going to trade at that, I think he's just got the, he's going to do the Baltic Amber Road again. And that didn't help him, but he gets 2 points for that. And then he's going to spend 1. Okay, so he spends 1 to get this, and here's his 2 points. And then finally, another one of these blue cards where we just went through this. So he can't acquire, but he can break through, and he's going to put this in history. And now he's going to break through for this one because it's worth the most points. He puts it on the top of his draw deck. Now that he's done, he does another trade like we just talked about. In this case, he's going to do this. He can't do the unrest, so he's going to gain 2 more points, like so. All right, and now that he's done with all of that, by the way, I don't fill this in because there are no more cards in the main deck. He is going to put this out here, mark this card, bring it over here, and then prepare for the last turn of the game. We are both going to get 1 more turn, and the game's going to be over. That should give you an understanding of, oh, and then we play a solstice turn where he doesn't do anything, but I get an opportunity to do solstice effects where I could discard a card to get some more stuff. And it actually does make sense now because I have 1 more turn available. I could discard this advance card right here. That would give me the opportunity then to pay 2 of these resources in order to gain that trade good. All right, so that's good because that'll set me up to dig into the glory deck to score. And then other solstice things is choose. Gain 1 per town or city I have in play, or return some of the unrest if I have any from the discard pile, which I don't think I have any unrest in the discard pile. No, I don't. So that allows me to get, I have 1 here and 1 there. So that would give me 2 of these population tokens. And then that is the end of my solstice that I have out here. He never takes any solstice turn, they would come to me, and then again, when I play 1 more turn, he'd play 1 more turn, the game would be over. You're usually looking at an hour and a half to maybe hour and 45 minutes, maybe even a little longer. It's not a short game, but I would not say it's a game that drags either. It does take some time, and there's a short version, short variant if you want to play a little bit of a faster game. Either way, I think that gives you a really good feel for the type of gameplay that's here. Now, let me go ahead and tell you specifically what I think about this version of the game. So I don't think it's going to come to you as a surprise that I think that the Imperium games, specifically Horizon, but I really enjoy the other versions as well, are fantastic solo games from a card-driven civilization, deck building, nuanced, just delicious choiced game, all right? And I really enjoy this game. I have enjoyed it from the beginning. And I think that the trade route side, as I've already talked to you about, that expansion there, really brings another element to the game, which I think is very fun. And you can mix that trade route element into the other parts of the game from previous editions also by just using the cards that are in the main deck because of it, or for it. And that's really cool. There are races in the, or nationalities that are in the Horizons box that require you to put that in. And in fact, the 2 that I was demonstrating there required that the trade route expansion be active. So there are some that require, but not all. And when you do that, basically you take away some of the attack cards and you mix them in with some of the trade route cards. And the only reason the game takes a little bit longer when you do that is because you technically have more things to do. You're always going to do a trade action at the end of the bot's turn. You're most likely going to do some kind of trade action in your turn. So it's going to add more to it, but it doesn't necessarily add more cards. You're swapping out some for another. Either way, I think it's a great game. I would encourage you, if you are really interested to see more of it, I did a solo playthrough of 2 of the classic races, and that really kind of galvanizes the way the game works. I get, spoiler alert, I get clobbered, by the way. Although the designer was very gracious in talking to me, or at least it was, I believe he did, but there was other people commented that there was ways that this expansion made the 2 races that I picked a little bit more balanced. I picked the weakest of the races from the standard box to square up against the strongest one from a bot standpoint, not really knowing, because I didn't really know where the metagame was. Either way, I still had a great time playing, and that's the thing about this game. The combinations, the way you can mix and match, they've got a whole campaign mode if you want to explore that, multiple difficulties. This game just has tons of content to explore. And I highly recommend you start with the Horizons, and if you like that and you want more, you could definitely go and find the other editions. But Horizons should be available at this point when you're viewing here, if you're reviewing it roughly around the time I'm publishing this video. And I think it's just a joy for the solo player to experience. Just super fun. So thank you so much again for watching. I really appreciate it. And whatever you decide to do in the future, I really do hope you have a fantastic time doing it. Take it easy, everybody.